Welcome to Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. Trailing an animal in the wild is usually difficult and time-consuming. But Stan Brock and I took part in the test of a tracking system that promises to make the job much easier. The system uses a combination of sophisticated radio equipment and two very specialized methods of transportation. It was developed by scientists of the United States Fish and Wildlife Service and the University of Minnesota, who were studying one of America's most majestic animals, the moose. They invited Stan and me to join their research project.
To follow the movements of individual animals, the system calls for temporarily immobilizing each moose with a tranquilizer gun, and then attaching color-coded ear tags and neck bands so that the animal can be instantly recognized. Then, to help in tracking the moose, a special radio collar is fitted, containing a tiny transmitter in here, along with the batteries required to operate it. Wherever the animal roams, this collar sends out a powerful electronic signal that researchers can pick up.
To follow that signal through the ice and snow of the moose's winter range, the plan was to use radio-equipped snowmobiles and helicopters. It seemed an ideal tracking system, and we were eager to help test it. The study was being conducted in the Agassiz National Wildlife Refuge in northwestern Minnesota, not far from the Canadian border. This refuge is ideal for moose, with mile after mile of swampland and shallow pools, frozen now and covered with deep snow. So far, we haven't found a bull moose to use in our tracking test, and pilot Heine Jan will rendezvous with another search helicopter at our base camp on the far shore of this shallow marsh. We're not the only ones heading for camp. Stan's been test driving a snowmobile. It's an ideal way to travel over the ice-covered ponds and deep drifts of the refuge. And we plan to equip a snowmobile with radio gear to use in our experiment today. These vehicles are fast and maneuverable, and they'll give us the mobility we need to track a bull moose from the ground. It's suspected that the big bulls travel the farthest as they roam through their range, and that's why the project director, wildlife research biologist Bob Phillips, wants to use a bull for our test of the radio tracking system. Bob will gain an important research tool if the system works. He's already placed these neck bands on many moose, using different colors and patterns to identify individuals. But the best way to follow an animal's movements may be with this radio collar. The concealed battery-operated transmitter will send a strong signal through the antenna, which is threaded around the collar. By picking up the signal, Bob plans to pinpoint the moose's location wherever it wanders. Before the second helicopter arrives, we'll investigate an area of dense trees that Stan discovered. It's a likely moose habitat.
Moose often seek areas of heavy brush in the winter for good browsing and protection from the bitter winds that sometimes blow across these open ponds. We're nearing the place where the bulrushes give way to trees, a place where we hope to find moose. Snowmobiles closer would only alert any animals in the area. We'll leave them here and continue on foot. There's no sign of moose, but other tracks crisscross the snow. There, in the trees ahead, a white-tailed deer.
There are many of them here. In winter, deer lose their solitary habits and band into groups. It's called yarding. and we've discovered a yarding area. The deer will probably remain in this sheltered place till the frigid weather eases. We've seen plenty of deer, but no sign of moose. A snowshoe hare is almost invisible on a drift ahead, its camouflage protecting it from foxes and coyotes. This yarding area is full of deer. They're all very nervous about our presence, and we'll head back for camp. Moose don't seem to have the same yarding tendency in winter as deer. Moose spread out, and the job of finding a solitary bull is much more difficult. In summer, these swampy areas are perfect for moose. The water below this ice is only 4 or 5 feet deep, and the animals wade into it to graze on water plants. But now we're more likely to find them in the heavy brush and trees. It's time to go up again in the helicopter and resume our search. Bob will join us on this trip as we fly over a new area, combining our tagging project with an aerial survey of the moose population here in the refuge. These population counts are taken every winter, when it's easier to spot the moose against the white snow. The second helicopter is waiting, and we've got plenty of daylight left. Bob's brought along our capture gear. And if we find a bull during our survey, we'll dart him.
My job is to survey the northern sector, an area Jim Morton knows well. With 2 helicopters, we have a good chance of finding our bull.
Our first job was to take an aerial survey of the moose population. The helicopters made the job of counting moose much easier.
We'll scout one area, while Marlin and Bob take another. This entire refuge is divided into large squares on a grid map, and the moose are counted from the air, 1 square at a time. There's our first animal, dark against the glaring snow, and it's a bull. We'll drop lower for a good look. Judging from his antlers, he's a mature animal, and it could be a good possibility for our tracking experiment. We're moving over some other refuge animals. Elk,